like that adulation, I like that gratitude, but I'll pass on both. Just give me that view.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back once again to Vicious Rants. And of course, I'm your host, you to sign off and imitate, never duplicate a superstar to Vicious. And gonna go over Raw this week. It was in the Thunderdome. But not just, no, not the Thunderdome that it's been in, no. I glossed over it vaguely last week. It's a new Thunderdome. It's in Tampa. It's in the Yuengling Center. And, well, before we get into that, a couple things do need to address. Wow. Well, before we get into the SmackDown Rewind, it's, WWE did another talent purge this year, and some names, you know, they let some names that honestly you couldn't help but look at and think, yeah, I could see why they let them go. You know, they let go Kalisto, Mojo Rawley, trying to think who else. The other ones that were Cutler. Had to think for a minute. Fuck. But hands down, the big names that surprised me more than anything that they let go were the Iconics, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce. But in all fairness, though, we all kind of knew that those two were both on borrowed time the second they split them up. But Mickie James, which, well, I don't have to go into detail about on how I feel in regards with her. All you have to do is just look in a few past episodes. Whew. And then, hands down, the biggest name that was a huge shocker was Samoa Joe, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that they let Samoa Joe out, because honest to goodness, if they were worried about him, I don't know the details and I don't claim to know the ins and outs on it. I'm just guessing. But if, and I emphasize if, they were concerned he couldn't work in the ring, he was already fucking killing it as a commentator. Joe transitioned from in-ring to commentary as fluidly as Taz did, going from in-ring to commentating on SmackDown. I can't stress this enough, you know, and does it suck that they let them go? Yeah, because, you know, no one, you know, I think on it in this perspective. Is there talent that I like and do not like? Yes, of course. However, even if I don't like you, I'm still gonna feel a small little bit bad because of the fact you got fired, and that fucks with your income and your way to provide for you and yours. I may be an asshole, but I'm an asshole with standards after all. I got a small little bit of a heart. But yeah, either way, really hope for nothing but the best for them. Honestly, I doubt it would happen, but if Samoa Joe ended up in MLW, just imagine the fight between him and Jacob Fatu. That's all I'm going to leave that at. Now with that said, let's switch gears, talk about last week via the SmackDown Rewind. Last week's SmackDown was the fallout to Mania, and it happened with Roman coming out, highlighting and glossing over the fact he did just as he said he did. He was like Babe Ruth. He called his shot and he knocked it out the park. He smashed them, he stacked them, he pinned them at... Are we talking about wrestling or porn? Yeah, we're talking about wrestling. And then afterwards, he proved that he was the tribal chief. And then he said, what else is there? Paul, make him cut a check. Let's go. Get the jet ready. Let's go home. And just then Cesaro came out. Looked like he was about to go and issue a challenge to him. Roman walked off. Then leads to a match between Cesaro and Jey Uso later in the night, which then ends up with Seth running interference on that. So we're still getting some more out of Seth and Cesaro, which I can't argue on. Other big highlights from last week's SmackDown. Bianca had a little celebration for her women's title win. Apollo officially acknowledged that Dabba-Kato is his right-hand man. He's the Nigerian Nail, as he calls him. I can't remember his new ring name, but yeah. He got a new ring name with it. And that pretty much sums up everything for SmackDown. So, with that said, let's get into this week's show. The big highlights from... Now, Raw, it starts out with Drew McIntyre coming down to the ring, all sorts of mad and pissed off like somebody blew a shit ton of smoke up his ass. And, you know, given that he's wearing a kilt, that's relatively easy. But, talking about on how he's pissed off because he won the #1 contendership, and then just as MVP came out, Mace and T-Bar came out, they beat him up, and he wants to know why's MVP got these boys beating him up if Lashley is so brave and can take care of Drew and all that. MVP just pretty much hit the nail on the head. Oh, I want you to sit on there and think for a minute. We do not need to hire anyone to take you out because we already proved we could take you out at WrestleMania. And last I checked, a couple weeks ago, didn't you make an open challenge to the locker room? Man, you told people to step up, and you don't think maybe you made an enemy or two along the way? And then eventually it led to Mace and T-Bar coming in as them two were going back and forth for a minute. And then you see McIntyre corner Pierce saying he wants a match with them two. He doesn't care if it's one-on-one, if it's a handicap or a tag, but he wants it. So yeah, we'll get to that later in the night. Now to the first match of the night. It's a rematch. Shelton and Cedric going against the Raiders once again. Excuse me. Don't worry, it's not a COVID cough. I know a lot of y'all are thinking, oh, they just did this last week. What the hell? Why are we getting this again? Guys, it's simple. One, WWE doesn't necessarily have the most diverse tag team roster on the planet when it comes to a wrestling company. Call a duck and a spade. That's the cold hard truth. Number two, the Raiders just came back from Xaiver just came back from neck surgery and all that jazz. You know, you don't think maybe for a minute that they're gonna highlight that? You know, it's not like they could just go and call up a handful of jobbers to go and come out for a match. It's, you know, and this is the thing that I always sit there and I laugh at and I question. You don't agree with what's going on. I get that. You want to complain about it. Go ahead. But let me ask you this. If you're going to complain, did you think of why they're doing it? And more to the point, have you thought on what you would do in an actual creative sense? Not just well, I wouldn't do this. No, give me something that's an actual creative idea. Something that's within the means that you feel that they are capable of doing, given the restrictions and everything that's going on with the world right now. As far as the match went, Eric was the punching bag for a little bit, and then Xaiver was, and then Eric wound up getting a hot tag. And I gotta tell you, you know, I've seen the Raiders through the years. You know, I saw them in Ring of Honor as War Machine, and then in NXT as the War Raiders. And I'll tell you this, I fucking dig them, man. You know, they are a fucking walking contradiction. You got Ivar, who's the bigger, heavier dude, who is the more acrobatic and high flyer, and you got Eric, who is the smaller of the two, but the frickin' powerhouse of the two. So it's like, holy shit nuts. And not only that, these two, you know, as best of my knowledge, they only had one match with each other in Ring of Honor. But if you can go back and find Eric Rowe versus Hanson, oh man, is that a hell of a match. But dude, no lie, these two can fucking go, and these two can fucking work. And they can go. I can't fucking stress this enough. They're a good team. You know? And our 10 Get You 20, we're probably going to get a third match next week, yes. But again, that falls to, given the restrictions we got, give me an option. Give me an alternative. Give me a team that, for lack of a better term, that you can look at and say, okay, boom, we could throw them in the trash can and have them get their ass kicked by the Raiders. Because they look like a team that can get their ass kicked. Match came to an end when the Raiders wound up doing the experience to Cedric Alexander. 1, 2, 3, that was it. So next matchup we got Riddle going against Randy Orton. And this came to be when Randy, right out of nowhere, was in the midst of a backstage interview. Riddle starts circling around him with his scooter, saying the stupidest shit that you can imagine, and afterwards you just see Randy all sorts of pissed off, wanting to walk away, and honestly my first thought was, Randy, if there was ever a time to take a big giant shit in somebody's bag, that's the guy whose bag you want to shit in. Yeah, he's not in that. He's not like that no more though. Either way, Randy went to Pierce, said he wants a match with him, so yeah. Match starts out, Riddle was leading at the start, you know, at one point, Riddle, he had like a choke in on Randy, and the whole time, I'm freaking yelling at the damn TV, because you see Randy sitting there like, trying to reach for ropes, and then just fucking drop him on his back, and then he eventually does, and just like, finally. You know, I don't know about any of y'all, but I've had 1 or 2 scraps growing up as a kid, and somebody come up on behind me like that, you know, first natural instinct. Boom, drop on your back, throw them off your back. Either way, Randy wound up picking up the pace and was leading after the break. Riddle started picking up the lead at the near end. Match came to an end though when, just as Randy was sizing up for an RKO, he had it hooked. Riddle countered it into a crucifix. 1, 2, 3, that was it. So yeah, Riddle got the win, and you saw Randy all sorts of like, what the fuck? The fuck just happened here? Kind of look on his face. So more than likely, we're going to wind up getting more matches with them two down the road. So, yeah. Next matchup, we got women's tag action. Nia and Shayna going against Lana and Naomi. Faces, they were leading early on, doing quick tags in and out to go and work on Nia until they tried to go for a double suplex. Yeah, that did not go well. Then, yeah. Shayna eventually came in, started cleaning up house, and then, for whatever reason, Mandy and Dana came out and were distracted Nia, who was on the apron, showing the highlights from last week on how Mandy sucker punched Nia and on how they double teamed her in the back, and then they showed the clips on how Nia Jax was stumbling over herself out on the apron. And then Nia was just like, you son of a... and chased off after them, and then, yeah. So, long story short, Lana and Naomi got the win doing a double face buster onto Shayna. Eventually backstage you see Shayna getting into Nia saying, listen, you're letting all this stuff get in your head instead of focusing on what we need to do. Take care of it or else. So next matchup we got now is Elias, fucking Gunner, fuck Gunner, going against Kofi, and Woods trolling Elias before the match even starts, playing his bass, doing his bass to mess with Elias, and he was even doing it for a small little bit at the beginning, was strumming Stone Cold's song for a little bit, and you saw Kofi not mocking, but doing Stone Cold stuff. The Luthez, stomping a mud hole, doing, oh hell yeah, doing that shit. Which, alright, that was pretty cool. You know. And Kofi, he starts to pick up some momentum after that. You know, it's a decent match. And we all know how I feel about the smelly hipster, but it was a decent enough match. It eventually came to an end when Elias was on the top rope. Kofi went for a top rope Rana, which he missed. And if you go and you watch it, you can see it was intentional. So before anyone goes and says, oh, that was a botch, oh, that was a slip, oh, that wasn't planned. No. Hold on there, slapdick. Professor Vicious is about to school you real quick. You look, anytime somebody is ever getting thrown off the top rope, their legs go from being on outside of the ropes to the inside. You go back and watch that moment where Kofi slipped but when Kofi went to go do that top rope Rana and it missed, Elias' legs were not in. No. They were outside the ropes, because right after that happened, Elias then tucked his legs in, scooted himself up, and then did an elbow drop like the Macho Man and got the 1, 2, 3. Now we come to the handicap match with Drew versus T-Bar and Mace, and this was honestly on how I like handicap matches to go, because it had both guys showing they are a dominant tag team compared to the one single person. They were actually winning, or not even so much winning, but showing that they were the dominant one. Did they get a loss through DQ? Yes. It was because both guys were in the ring and did not break when the ref did a count. But the point is, they were asserting dominance by saying, we both are taking you down. And then eventually, Braun Strowman came out, and then we eventually got a new tag match with Drew and Braun going against Mace and T-Bar. Braun was powering Mace right at the start, and then surprisingly, Braun Strowman becomes the punching bag, which, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of got mixed emotions on because of the fact of he's supposed to be a damn near 7 foot, 400 plus pound behemoth of a man, you know? Like I said before, honestly, the best way I described him before when he first came on the scene. Like the Mountain from Game of Thrones, but with a beard. And just like, good God. And in seeing him get turned into the team punching bag. Now, Drew got the hot tag and cleaned up house, and for obvious reasons, I understand. You know, yeah, you want to have the guy who's going to be contesting for the WWE title come soon to look good and strong and dominant. So that's why. But my God, it just felt wrong. It just felt like, man, really? Really, man? Feels like we're set to keep you good. We kind of got to throw this dude under the bus, man. Anyways, the match came to an end via a DQ when McIntyre was in there with Mace, and then he yanked the mask off and then started beating him with it. And then eventually T-Bar came in, Strowman started beating him up, yanked his mask off and beat him up with it. And I'm not going to lie, from a creative standpoint, this was actually a pretty clever way to be able to wean the characters slowly out of the whole retribution thing and get the masks off them. Now, what's that say about slapdick? I mean, slap nuts? I mean, slapjack? I don't know, but either way, I still stand by my argument of the biggest letdown with Retribution was when they were feuding with New Day, and then Woods had to address Mace as Mace instead of Dio, because then he couldn't do like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Dio! Yell to him. Yeah. So now we come to the next match, Miz against Damian Priest, which came to be because of some impromptu stuff that happened during a Miz TV segment where they were hyping up Miz and Mrs. and... ugh. Fucking, I can't stand reality shows. I hate them. Lazy goddamn work. Make some real goddamn TV shows. Ugh. Either way. They were doing that, and then Damian Priest came out, started running his mouth, talking about on how Miz screwed him over, did a dirty win last week, and then they made a challenge for a match tonight, and now we're here, and Priest, he was pretty much leading the pace. It was a decent match. It played out kind of a lot like last week, if you will. And yeah. Match came to an end when it was almost an exact mirror ending of last week when Miz was going for a fucking roll-up when Maryse was going to clamp the leg. Priest kicked out. And then Priest, boom, rung his bell, and then did the hit the lights, 1, 2, 3, that was it. So now we come to main event of the night, Charlotte Flair against Asuka. And man, I tell you, these two go together, man. These two fucking mesh and gel so fucking good. You know, it's... I want to think of the right way to say this. You know on how like Charlotte's dad, Rick, meshed really well with Dusty? Charlotte meshes extremely well with Asuka. And I'm not saying it's like Charlotte and Asuka are anywhere on the same kind of feud level as like Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes were. I'm saying them two mesh together that well, and that's what's so fucking cool. But yeah, it was decent. It was a decent match. I dug it. Had some good back and forth. Asuka was leading post break. Rhea Ripley was ringside watching it, and match came to an end when eventually at one point Charlotte went and locked in the figure 8, and as she's bridging herself, Rhea, boom, pulls her arms out and then backs away like, yo, hey, I'm innocent. I didn't do nothing. You can't blame this on me, motherfucker. Ref didn't see nothing. And then Charlotte grabs Rhea, starts going to try and pull her in. As she does, Asuka then, boom, quick kicks right to the midsection, scoops her up, does a crucifix pin. If I had to pick something apart, it would be the crucifix pin. Because honestly, we saw a crucifix earlier in the show at Riddle. I don't know. Maybe a different kind of pin. Maybe a schoolboy or, you know, a quick choke out or something. I don't know. But I don't have enough time to think creatively on that. I'm just spitballing. But either way, after the match, Charlotte then has a conniption fit and starts going ballistic on the ref that handled the match, to where where a bunch of refs come down. Oh, that's enough, Charlotte. That's enough. And she just goes to town on him until eventually fade to black. All in all, I gotta tell you, this was actually a lot better than the Raw after Mania. You know, but I don't know. It felt more story driven, this week's episode. So yeah. So that is it for this week's show, folks. So please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, go back, watch some of the other episodes. Look for me on the Twitter at Tim Vicious. Also on that Facebook gimmick, Tim Ash. If you look me on my Facebook gimmick, you know you found me on there from here. Or my Twitter at Tim Vicious, trying to get a pre-John going. Thank you to executive producer Ollie Ray Ben, who did provide the music for this week's show. Make sure you check it out. It's on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, all that good shit. Details are down below. Also, thank you to contributor to the show, LFC Lingerie Fighting Championship. It's a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of MMA, a whole lot of attractive women wearing a little bit of nothing. Also, folks, don't forget to follow these cool ass cats right here on the Twitter. Kenny Killer DSB_RV, Diabolidare, Sergeant Current Pants, and Dubs in your face. And folks, like I always tell y'all, you love me great, you hate me. Fuck yous.